Maul Shadow Lord Season 1, Episode number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and we're checking out the next episode of Maul Shadow Lord. So, I've decided I'm going to only be reacting to one episode at a time. I'm going to be pumping these out slowly but surely. Again, just because my sleep schedule and work schedule, they're just a hot mess. So, because I'm working nights, I'm trying to make sure I get enough sleep, so at least I have some energy to do stuff like this and, you know, just work on my other side gigs and all that. So hence the reason why I'm deciding to only pump one episode out at a time. But yeah, anyway, quick little recap of episode 1. Maul's back. He's finally got his own show. He and his crew are on a planet called Janix, as Maul's essentially trying to rebuild his criminal empire. We're introduced to some of the new characters, Devin Azara, which is supposed to be this show's equivalent to Dark Talon. Master Iko Diodaki, who's Devin's master. We were introduced to Brander Lawson, Two Boots, which is essentially the police detective duo. And then, yeah, we were introduced to some of, reintroduced to some of the guys in Maul's crew. We have Rook Cast, and then we have two new characters, Icarus and Scorn and all of that. So essentially, we're just getting to know some of the new characters. And obviously the first episode, that being Maul seeking revenge against some of the smaller crime bosses here who were essentially in league with Maul in the Shadow Collective. But yeah, we're finally moving on to episode 2. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Wasted no time, picking up right where we left off. Bro, that droid is seriously giving me some serious frenzy vibes from Transformers. I'm starting to like that droid a lot. What are you doing? Getting you transport, what do you mean?
Trust me, I smell worse.
They're on us.
Whew. Bro, I'll just say this. Janix PD, they should be glad that they're not using, that most of their personnel are droids, because if they had semi-organic beings as their officers, they'd be taking some heavy casualties, not only in this speed chase, but especially in the last scene where Maul and his boys actually broke into the police department to get Vario and Devin. Been such a loss of life right there. Very smart on Maul's part, man. Playing on Daki's compassion. And were this a Clone Wars version of the character, Maul would have drawn his lightsaber to challenge him head on, but since he has to live up to his name, Shadow Lord, you know, he can't afford to extend the confrontation. He has to make it quick and ensure that he doesn't get public recognition, you know?
You're wounded. Please. The Mandalorians are experts in combat injuries.
Yeah, I know Maul isn't the most trustworthy person, Devin, but trust him on that, all right? Because the Mandalorians gave him his current set of legs, so he knows from experience.
The girl.
She is a Jedi.
How has she survived?
Well, let us find out. Who are you?
A prisoner.
You have been indoctrinated since you were a child. Now you must adapt.
Yep. And that's a good life lesson too. Change is inevitable, so you gotta be ready to adapt and you know, get acquainted with the tides of change. So
Your syndicate helps the Pikes smuggle their spice into this system. Once I disrupt their network, Krim will suspect you, and you will get me close so I can kill him.
I will do whatever it takes, sir, to help you get revenge on him. I want to help.
making him sweat a little bit. Yeah, man. Maul wants revenge on these syndicates. Because if you guys have read the Darth Maul Son of Dathomir comic, you have Black Sun, the Pikes, and the Hutts. Essentially, every single one of them pulled out of his Shadow Collective just because he was waging his own personal war against the Republic and essentially his master, Darth Sidious, who was Chancellor Palpatine. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, his criminal allies, they're criminals at the end of the day. So they're going to choose self-preservation and, you know, the survival of their syndicate over helping Maul essentially get his revenge. So it's unsurprising, but still, I wouldn't sleep well knowing if I'd cross Maul, he'd be hunting me. So
Brander Lawson. What do you need?
Shadow Collective.
Based on Mandalore, if I remember, a boss named Maul merged Pikes, Crimson Dawn, Black Sun.
You got anything else?
I'm, free for dinner.
She's shooting her shot, man. Sometimes that's how you gotta do it. Take a chance. And if they say no, they say no, you know?
Times have changed. What does it mean for you to be a Jedi guardian of peace and justice in a time of lawlessness?
I still believe in those principles.
If only they were more like you. Perhaps things wouldn't be the way they are today.
Yeah, no, for real. It's just so complicated to talk about because ultimately the Jedi really did screw themselves over when you think about it, because they refused to, you know, adapt. They refused to update their own code. Instead of, they continue to live in rigid dogma and, you know, just refuse to see the world differently. So again, like, it's just a whole, there's just so many different intricacies of what led to the Jedi's fall. But yeah, I mean, Maul's got a point, you know? Oh man, he's ready to screw them up. Bro, that would be the most terrifying thing ever. Trying to ward off a dark side warrior in a narrow hallway. I would... No way.
That was yours is now controlled by Mark Krim. I'm sure you believe that.
Whew. Wow. One thing I'm liking so far is that they're not holding back on the brutality, because Maul is definitely a dark and gritty character, and that was one thing I was really hoping for with this series, is that they would make it dark and gritty, and they're doing a good job of that so far. So so she's out. Now the question is she gonna join Maul, or is she gonna stay faithful to her master and to the Jedi teachings? That was episode 2 of Maul's Shadow Lord, and yeah, it's starting to get pretty interesting now. Maul's already tackling the bigger fish in the Pike Syndicate, so he's taken, that's who's next on his hit list. he's gonna target Mark Krim, the leader of the Pike Syndicate. So we'll probably see him in the next couple of episodes, and most likely see him getting killed. But yeah, we just see Maul slowly trying to just rebuild where he left off in the Clone Wars, because obviously, again, like just going back to like the Clone Wars TV show and Maul Son of Dathomir comic book, Maul's Syndicate, like it took a huge hit when he was facing and challenging his former master Darth Sidious. And you know, that little group, this group that he has, that's essentially all he has left of his former syndicate. So they may be a small group, but they're effective. So I got confidence in their group. Then going with Lawson, we see him just trying to understand what it is exactly that he's dealing with, because all he knows is that he's dealing with a Force user. He doesn't know exactly what Maul is right at the top of the bat, but I'm sure he knows that he's out of his depth, but he'd rather deal with him his way rather than calling in the Empire, which, to be fair, is a smart move, because calling in the Empire would just make things 10 times worse. Maul may be a bad guy, Maul and his group may be bad guys, but the Empire, they're 10 times worse. So I definitely understand it from Lawson's perspective. Not only that, but we see him pretty tied down to his work, so it affects him from spending time with his son, Riley. And he's a single dad too, so for those of you guys who are single parents, you know, this is a kind of like a nod to, you know, the pressures and the hardships of, you know, trying to raise a kid while also trying to provide for them, you know, because you want to make sure that you're there for them, but you know, life and responsibilities, they get in the way. And I get that. Like, I'm not a single parent, I don't have kids yet, but I can only imagine just, you know, like the hardships of just trying to maintain and juggle that delicate balance of being there for your family while at the same time being responsible and providing for them. So, you know, like that's just another layer of pressure that, you know, Lawson has to deal with. And on top of that, he was meeting with his friend at the casino. I don't know if she may be a former bounty hunter, or, well, clearly she's someone who has a good layout of the criminal underworld. So she knows enough about Maul and the Shadow Collective. So she was able to hit Lawson up with enough information to know exactly what it is that he's dealing with. So he's not, you know, fumbling in the dark completely, you know. And then we're going to Devin. Again, I'm thinking she's gonna stay true to the Jedi and her master, Iko Diodaki, at least for now. If and when the Empire turns up in this series, you know, that may change, because undoubtedly they're gonna call in Inquisitors. They're gonna call in. I don't know if Vader is gonna personally show up in this series. He might, but at the same time, again, this series takes place a year after the Clone Wars, so Vader, like, he's got his own stuff going on. He's still coming to terms with him giving himself to the dark side. He's trying to focus on actually resurrecting his wife, Padme Amidala. He's busy being the Empire's enforcer, enforcing his will and all that. So, you know, I don't know if Maul is going to be enough of a problem for Vader to pull up personally to deal with him. We'll see. But, I mean, it's very possible, because Maul, even though he's no longer a Sith, he still threatens Darth Sidious and the Sith as a whole, because the dude is trying to create his own power base and his own power that threatens the Sith. And at the end of the day, the Sith are going to do whatever they can to maintain their power for as long as possible. So it may happen, it may not, at least for this season, you know. It could very well happen in season 2. But yeah, guys, that has been this reaction video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to get out of here. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you all in the next one. Later.